إن ربكم الله الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش
Uh, we should not base anything based on PCR test. It is not a valid test. And then we'll go from there.
Okay, just a query, Ismail. One of the
Mm.
brothers mentioned from the group regarding they have this natural flow test. It's like a pregnancy test now, similar to
Yes,
pregnancy test,
yes, yes,
which
yes.
they brought about, which will detect whether you're, especially for us, we when we have children, they're
Mhm.
going to go to school on this coming Monday, and they're going to be tested twice a week or 3 times a week. I don't know how many number of times. The situation is, do those tests indicate to whether your child, depending on positive or negative, does that indicate that they have COVID? If
Or
they
not.
do, then they will be told to isolate, and everybody else in the house have to isolate.
And this is what I try to tell everybody. Can we, and I don't know how many times I have said it, and I'm going to say it. I think I must have said it already 10 times here, and I'm going to say it 11th or 20th time.
Mm.
This is where the chemistry comes in. People has to follow chemistry. And if somebody says we have a different test, we have antibody test, we have antigen test, we have a fast test, we have, nobody can have a correct test. Period. The reason being, for a correct test, whatever they are measuring, we have to have a reference for that. And
Mm.
reference is virus. We don't have that. So if tomorrow they come, that look, we made a test for a new test for students, for the children in our school, and it is so simple. It's a penny a test, and it's a 10 cents a pen. I don't care. To be a valid test, the only reason that test is being done is because the government is approving it.
Mhm.
Science is not approving it.
Do you explain the deaths?
One
How
of
do I
the
explain
speakers,
that?
the deaths in the hospital, I think.
Yeah, but the thing is this, you see, I gave a talk on my website as well. In the end, there there are deaths in the hospital, and that's, I think I mentioned in my previous talk as well. When people are dying in the hospital, obviously it's very unfortunate, but death is part of life. People will be dying. If there are more people dying, yes, there could be a reason for it, which is fine. I will accept that. But we have to come up that reason. We have to come up with that reason with scientific validity. It is not right that more people are died, so it's COVID is dying it. If you are saying it is died by the COVID, then we have to show, we have to prove that this is the COVID cause. We need the test for COVID. We have to link that. We don't have the test for COVID. We don't have the virus. So if deaths are happening, it means we are looking this side, maybe COVID, but maybe some other thing might be happening.
Mm.
Okay,
Mhm.
so it
Mhm.
is not, so if the hospitals, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like people died in China. Okay, or it's the virus is coming, but where is the link? But it developed the policy. Similarly, if more people are dying in the hospital, unfortunately, okay, or it's the COVID, where is the link? That is not there. And the reason that is not there, and that's where the chemistry comes in. Everything, if you want to see or you want the answer, you have to have a test for it. Whether it's a chemical test, sometimes it's not, you don't need the chemical test. You might need some physical test,
Mm.
strength or whatever, but you have to have a validated test. Please remember this word, valid. A
Mm.
test even a valid test have its own inaccuracy.
Mm.
We always live with that. 90%, 5% accurate, 99% accurate, 98% accurate. But that test is validated. It means it is capable of detecting or giving you the answer what you are looking for. It doesn't
Uh,
have it. But in
uh,
PCR, let me finish. Sorry, in PCR, you don't have a valid test. It is not looking what you think it is looking. That's the problem. That's
okay. So I think what the brother was saying, or the person who was commenting regarding death in the hospital, the question that needs to be asked, I would say, would be to the hospital and the people who have registered the death as to what is the cause of that death of that particular patient. The issue, I would say, that people are still dying, uh, as they say, of COVID. Other recently, people have been immunized in the UK. They got the first dose, 20 million. Some people got the second dose, but people are still dying. The question needs to be asked: those who are dying in the hospital, have they died after they have the vaccine? And if they haven't, and those who are dying of COVID, then the reduction, they will say because of this reduction of death, it shows that the vaccine is working.
but again, when they say a reduction is showing the vaccine is working, it's an assumption. This
Mm.
is how our back home medical system works, like modern system goes with the science. When we say science, it means we have an objective, we have a test, and we connect them.
Mhm.
This is science. But when you say we gave the vaccine to people and apparently there's less death, we just assume vaccine working. This is assumption. But by the way,
Yes.
there are reports coming that they started with very aged people for vaccination, and
Yes.
Yes.
their death number are not lowering. There
Mm.
are
Okay.
reports.
I mean, in regards to any vaccination or any new drug development, is this some kind of testing phase? Are we like, is this a testing phase for these vaccinations? Because obviously we heard before that any kind of vaccine takes 5 to 10 years to develop, and some miracle they've been able to work really, really hard. But to validate this, if a vaccination works, can they do that now? Is this a testing phase or?
Well, yeah. I mean that's what I wrote as well. I evaluated the process of approval and evaluation of Pfizer vaccine, and that I very clearly written. There are a number of steps when they develop a medicine. Okay, to cut the long story short, the major part of drug development is animal studies. We start from mice, go to rat, the cat, the dog, the monkey, on and on. Okay, and then it comes in humans, and by the time it comes in humans, it's already many years passed by. That is why drug development takes a longer time. The reason we do
Okay.
it in animals is because, obviously, ethical reason, we cannot directly inject or give medicine to humans. There could be,
Mhm.
but for example, uh, in rat, small animals, they give you a very good advantage because their age is very small, so they reproduce very fast. So if
Mhm.
we can even see the generation effect of the drug very fast,
Mhm.
and then we can do all the bio but unfortunately those studies hasn't been done in here, because if you do those kind of studies, you are not going to see the vaccine in 1 year.
Okay.
so
Mm.
so this is another problem. The first problem is you have to have a target, means you have to have very clearly defined virus there, whether it's an animal or that's the target. And then you have a medicine and do all these type of testing to see that virus get killed. We Unfortunately, we don't have the virus, the target, and we jumping. So that
Professor
Okay,
Said,
so
can
sorry,
I just
Sky.
ask,
So go on. Hold on.
let me just, Professor Said, just a question regarding the vaccines. From what I've, what we are hearing, it looks like every country or every continent, they're developing their own vaccine. And the question I have, if it is something that is affecting everybody, it's the same vaccine, why is it that everybody is developing their own vaccine? I don't, I'm trying to understand how is it that, this particular virus is affecting everybody around the world, but we are able to develop different vaccine for it. Is it got to do with climate? Is it got to do with the way people are? What is it that makes it that this particular vaccine, for example, in for example, the Pfizer is not good in Africa or Middle East, but another one is better in the Middle East. So how do they come to this understanding that this will be better for these people, this will be better for that people?
most of the time, and this is not a vaccine issue. This is issue with any drug, because you see, and this is my concern. This has been my concern. For example, even forget for a minute the vaccine, just a regular drug. You can talk about regular drug, okay, paracetamol or whatever. If it is a new drug you develop, I don't know how a vegetarian will react or how a Muslim, like we eat meat. It died effects too. So they try to do those kind of things with the clinical trials, but I'm still not comfortable because in the end of and that's what I am saying, it started from, and that's what I wanted to say is that my background is chemistry. And this is what I like to see. You have to have a target, you have to have a medicine. And by the way, medicine in general, 99% of the time are chemical compounds, small or large. If this is a chemical compound, it has to follow chemical principles to react. And if it is going to kill the virus, I want to know what chemical reaction occurred there. And that's what we call mechanistic. And this is what we are supposed to be doing. But unfortunately, we are not. We just take, okay, we think it is good. It will cure, it will diminish the side effects. It will not show the, so let's give it to try to the people. Some people got cured, for example, 100 got cured, 50 didn't. We say, oh, look, it worked in 50. This is what is happening right now. And that worries me.
Yeah, I think we have a question from Sadaf Jilani.
Yeah, Gilani, yeah, I know her.
1 second.
Hello. Hi. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Hi there. I'm a non-practicing MD in Canada.
Yes.
Dr. Qureshi and I know each other. I just wanted to touch on a few points. What Dr. Qureshi is saying is very important. When we say that, so-and-so had COVID, we must address the fact that there does not exist a valid test for SARS-CoV-2 detection.
Yes.
As Dr. Qureshi said, and was verified in a Portuguese appeals court ruling, any assays using over 35 cycles are 97% false positives, okay? And so there's many issues with these assays, not just the cycle count. 22 scientists have filed a request for retraction letter on the Drosten protocol in Germany, which is the one that all our assays are based on. And they're referring to them as fatal errors. So that's the first thing I just want to emphasize what Dr. Qureshi is saying. So now you have a situation where you're testing the populace with something that's not really a test, right? So when we call it a test, that's a misnomer. What this is a molecular amplification technique. And as the inventor of the PCR, Kerry Mullis, said, you can find anything and anyone with PCR, okay? So a positive result is absolutely useless, which is why 80+% of the people that are tested are negative. I'm sorry, are the people that are tested are asymptomatic that are positive. I'm sorry, just to clarify that. And then you had mentioned the question about, excuse me, what else comes up when you run these assays on people. So depending on which assays you look at, about 100 other hits come up for other microbes and a couple of dozen for our own, excuse me, genetic material. I will be right back. I will be right back. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get a glass of water.
No problem. No problem. No problem. No problem. Just until Salaf comes back. Obviously we're looking at this as an emergency situation. So there're going to have to be some shortcuts. We're seeing deaths. We're seeing people losing their taste, people becoming very ill. So I'm just saying, I'm just trying to invent an emergency situation. So we bring up a test that tests for random DNA, and then we say, well, okay, we're gonna make up a vaccine quickly because people are dying. And obviously the vaccinations that they're going to do are they're not there to kill the virus, they just enhance our immune system. That's the aim of the virus, to enhance our immune system so that we can fight the symptoms. My question is, under an emergency situation, what is the harm of that? If a government is saying, okay, we've got millions of people dying, so-called millions, it might be 1,000 or 2,000. What is the harm in that if we see it as an emergency situation?
Okay. The vaccines, let's talk about the Pfizer one or Moderna one.
Yes.
That's what they are saying. It's a new technology.
Okay.
And that's a good thing because they are extremely simple. In general, the vaccines are virus themselves. Okay. So I leave those classical vaccines, which I think is your England one, Oxford one is coming. It's fall in a sort of classical one. Let's go the Pfizer one, which is a simpler one. When I say simpler one means it's a purely synthetic chemical.
Okay. Made in a lab, like
made in a lab, simulating or duplicating RNA. Okay. So now somebody comes to you say, okay, people are dying. We have nothing to do. Try it. So make sure trying means you are trying chemical, pure and simple. On the other side, people get paranoid the moment they hear the word chemical. But here we are in a completely different opposite. So now, what can go wrong? This is the job of drug development. This is what we study when we do it to animals. This is what we do in long-term studies to find out what can go wrong. Unfortunately, we haven't done that. So saying it can only do good, we have nothing to lose, is
no, too risky.
Jumping too much. People have concern. People have concern. There are two types of concerns there. Number one, you are giving this as you mentioned as well to increase the immunity. But if we increase the wrong type of immunity or non-stoppable immunity, you are creating an autoimmune problem. And second thing is this, although people are saying it is not going into your cell, it is not going to disturb your DNA, but I do not want to bet on it until I see some proof for it.
So you would say as a scientist that it is too early and there's not enough tests have been done.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I work with Health Canada, it takes us to almost read about a drug application when comes to almost 3 years to read that application.
That's just application stage.
When they apply for approval of drug, almost it takes a couple of years, 3 years, maybe sometimes 5 years or 2 years, just to read their application, what they are providing, years, analyzing it. Okay, here we have developed the drug and approved it, everything. So in that case, I think the wise decision would have been, at least in my view, if given the, I mean, we have a history of so many drugs already in the market. We have so much experience of the physicians. We have so much experience of, let them see the disease and give them some regular stuff.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
I have a question regarding the vaccination. Now, you're saying you recommend, in your view, that if you don't feel safe, I'd like to ask your colleague, Sadaf, she's back.
I'll bring her back now. 1 second.
She could join in. She could get involved. The
Here
question.
she is.
Hiya. Can I just have a question? Two questions. Number one is that regarding the lateral flow test, which they're gonna come and bring it for our children to have it in school. In terms of its reliability, I don't know what it does the same test, I think, as the PCR test, but it's more done on the spot. 20 minutes, you get the result. And then the situation now is that they're bringing the vaccination passport, which basically is that you need to have this vaccination passport for you to either go abroad or to have access to normal things, what do you call it, supermarket, shops, whatever it is. But you need that vaccination passport. So in a way, what you're saying that you don't recommend it, now the government in an indirect way have made it an obligation for everybody to have it. And if you don't have it, you sit in your home, you die in your home, nobody cares. Dr. Saeed or Sadaf, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I want to first of all address I want to talk about context, okay? What has happened here is not happened in a vacuum, okay? About a year ago, the World Health Organization, under fraudulent data, declared a pandemic. And at that time, there was about 1% of the annual mortality of flu from what we called COVID, okay? Everything that they did was predicated on computer models and not actual data. And we use this word every day, pandemic. In 2009, the World Health Organization changed the definition of pandemic before declaring the swine flu, which was a disaster, and I can give you links about that. They removed the clause of excess mortality and death. Therefore, technically, a cold or a flu can be a pandemic if it's widespread. So I just wanted to mention that because it conjures a lot of fear. Secondly, you had mentioned that this is a new virus, okay? I read this coronavirus study paper, their white paper on virus novelty. And what they said was that they got their direction from the WHO to name it novel. And secondly, they said that technically every virus is novel, especially these RNA viruses, because they constantly mutate. And we know that about the flu, right? Flu viruses constantly mutate. Now, if we think about it logically, why wasn't SARS-CoV-1 labeled novel? That was the first of its kind. And its case fatality rate was much higher than this SARS-CoV-2, right? So these two words are not really as meaningful as we think, but I want to discuss context because what's happening is for the last year, every 5 minutes, the media is blaring death, 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 okay? They refuse to tell you the IFR, and the IFR is the infection fatality rate, meaning that if you get this thing, whatever it is, what is the likelihood that you're going to die from it? And no matter how you slice it and dice it, with inflated death statistics, the IFR is on order of the flu. Okay, so that's very important. That's hard data, which we now, Professor Ioannidis from Stanford said that many months ago. He is a world-renowned epidemiologist, and that has been confirmed over and over again. So the very important point I want to mention is that death coding changed under guidance of the WHO. Okay, so when you guys are, we're all referring to deaths, you have to realize cancer deaths, heart attack deaths, car accidents, like the NHS changed coding so that if anybody incidentally tested positive and 2 months later died from a car accident, that's labeled as a COVID death, right? So
Yes.
even with, you see what I'm saying? So we have to step back and look at the bigger picture. Even with all this death coding changes in Canada, under 60, the mortality rate is 0.0017%. Okay. And if you look at the average age of death from COVID in every Western country, it is the average life expectancy or higher. In Canada, in some data points, it's 86, and the average life expectancy is 82. Okay, so what's happening is in many cases, we are relabeling what used to be called death from old age, right? So, back in March, when all this started, the Swiss Policy Research Institute said, for us to understand, because they really wanted to, earnestly understand what's happening here. We've got a new virus, what's going on? And they said, listen, to understand the lethality of a virus, you have to look at how many young, healthy people it's killing. So if you have young, healthy people that are collapsing on the street from this, then we know it's the virus that's killing them, and we have to be worried. If you're looking at end of stage people, end of life people that have 2+ comorbidities, those people, when you do autopsies on them, they also have bacterial infections in them. They may also have the flu in them. And incidentally, flu has disappeared all across the world, right?
Yes.
So I just want to bring these points up for context. In answer to your question about the injections, I actually wrote an article on the COVID synthetic gene therapy injection, which is, as Dr. Qureshi said, is a new technology. It's unlike anything that we've ever deployed on the populace before. Okay, what you're doing now is you're basically getting your own cells to manufacture the spike protein of what they're calling as the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which at this point is a digital virus. It exists on the digital genome database, has not been isolated. Christine Massey has filed, and her colleagues around the world, including in the UK, have filed freedom of information requests. And so far, there is no evidence anywhere that this virus has been properly isolated. And I put a link for that in the chat. I will ask everyone and actually beseech everyone to please research these synthetic gene therapy injections. They are a recipe for disaster. The UK Health Alliance has written a letter to Boris Johnson urging him to reconsider these vaccines. Deaths have gone up in nursing homes throughout the world since this vaccine has been dispensed. And in Israel's an interesting situation, because I've said to my friends that I've lived to see the day that the Palestinians have a benefit over the Israelis, okay? And that is this injection. 53% of their population has been vaccinated. 40 times more deaths now in elderly compared to those who would have maybe naturally died from what they call COVID. 260 times greater death now in the vaccinated population than if they were not vaccinated. So the data is very clear, but what we have to acknowledge is there is a complete stranglehold of information, okay? We have world-renowned researchers and infectious disease specialists like Dr. Bakti from Germany, people from all over the world, Didier Raoult, all kinds of people, and they're being heavily censored. If you want to do something to protect yourself, the best thing that you can do is vitamin D supplementation, and I can send you compelling results of a study on that. In fact, we could argue that what we really have in our Western temperate latitude countries is a deficiency of vitamin D. Okay, and that's even in previous years, the cytokine storm and the complications that you have from influenza and pneumonia, is vitamin D is a big factor in that. So I would like to put the link to my article.
Yeah, can I just interject here? I mean, so do we have a consensus? I mean, that a virus exists, because we have a consensus amongst ourselves that a virus exists.
Something
And
exists, something.
Yes, as the doctor said, Dr. Sadov said that the best way for us to treat it is take vitamin D, and if you're young and your immune system is healthy, you'll be okay. Now, for me, that's good enough. I've had the COVID. I got through it. Alhamdulillah, majority of people that I know have got over it. It's only really been those who have been elder or have some underlying disease. But now we have the push. We have the TV pushing for vaccinations. We have people with big farmers pushing, people with vented interests pushing vaccination, when we can see that the majority of people are surviving. Now, from the doctor's point of view and Dr. Sadda's point of view, why is this being pushed onto us? What is your conclusion? What is your research that why vaccination being pushed on the population?
I'm going to quickly answer that, okay? Myself and my fellow activists have predicted like 11 months ago everything that's happening. How could we have known that, right? How could we have known that we're going to have vaccine passports? And
sorry to cut you, Doctor. Can I just get a bit of your background just so everyone can know who you are and what your experience is in your field?
Absolutely.
Please.
So
Thanks.
my education is I have a BSc and a medical degree from Canada. I'm a non-practicing MD.
Okay.
I'm basically a Canadian activist and researcher. So
okay.
What I wanted to say about that, I'm sorry, I just forgot your question. You were asking about, oh yeah, how do I know this? Okay, so if you want to look at this, this is basically, we've entered the age of biosecurity, okay? And what I like to look at it as is 9/11 on steroids, okay? And what that means is, in the paradigm of biosecurity, everyone is a threat, okay? Whether you're no longer healthy anymore, you're either asymptomatic or you're symptomatic. That's the only way to get people with the freedoms that we had to live life as a scientific dictatorship, as you see in China, okay? That's what they're rolling out. So this is about the UN Sustainability Development Goals. This is about the World Economic Forum's Great Reset. That is what they're doing. And so the vaccine, we knew all of this was coming. It's like someone said, they didn't make the vaccine for COVID. They made COVID for the vaccine, right? And so that's that they're changing the language now, okay? They're going to start rewarding your behaviors now, right? So those of us who are good citizens get to go to the gym because we got our vaccine, right? So that's really what this is about. And as someone had mentioned in the chat, the fourth industrial revolution. So you're going to see now the phasing out of cash, for example, right? Blockchains. And the best example I can give, because I feel that the template for this was in China, the scientific dictatorship system that they have there. And I feel that that's what's happening in our countries here, and especially in Canada and in the UK. I'll let Dr. Qureshi share his opinion.
Okay.
It's to be honest, very difficult to answer this question, but certainly I feel I have a feeling it's a business.
Okay.
So basically is that we are living in a society which runs based on money, okay, and which is not wrong. I mean, all the business people, like for example, they provide the food, okay, and we are healthy, happy. They make millions, they make billion, plane companies and so on. And the thing is unfortunately, here it's the pharmaceutical industry, and they are making money. And I, generally speaking, to be honest, I usually do not blame them, because they are just exploiting the opportunity to make money. And the problem is that, if I'm coming back, is that the science part, and this is my worry is, science part is either ignored or corrupted. And that's where we got stuck into it. And unfortunately or fortunately, I usually blame more on governments, because they are providing that opportunity. And I work with the government and I know, but somehow industry gets the blame. There's no doubt they have their own share as well. But this is okay. I mean, like for example, right now, people all over the world, they are really desperate to get out of the situation. They are trying to convince the government, okay, that please listen, this is not what you think it is. There are so many scientists are saying this thing, but somehow government has a set mind somehow. Your and my problem is we are trying to get government out of it, change their mind. But the pharmaceutical industry is saying, good luck to you. They are not going to do it. Why not we make money out of it? They want vaccine, we are going to give them the vaccines. And they make a lot of money. So now, that's all. Like Sadaf, I know her now quite well through this kind of interaction as well, which is a young girl and she's very active. And this is what she's trying. And I'm sort of also give her a little bit of a hand, not that much, to tell to the government that please listen. If you get out of this mindset that COVID is there, a vaccine is going to save you. If they get out of that mindset, believe it or not, in my view, the pharmaceutical industry will come with the new ideas, how to deal with it. And they can make their own money. But the problem is, no, we are, somehow we are fighting. But pharmaceutical industry is saying, you can fight your whatever you want to buy. Like I'm the poorest guy, but they say, government is want to do that. I mean, they are giving us $20 billion, you know. They want their vaccine now. And they know that. And in this respect, I should say, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm making it too much. They know that it is not, we are not following the right way. There might be problem. So they are getting their immunity of any damages after.
Yes.
They know that.
Yeah, we can't sue them.
Can't sue them. So basically they know things are not the way scientifically should be, are they? But the thing is it's the government who has to, in my view.
I mean, the government, I mean, we always think that the government is there to protect the people, for the people. But we're finding that, do we have trustworthy government? Can they be bought? Or are they just, is it just being lazy science? Just, okay, let's just find a solution for everyone and just roll out the vaccine.
Somehow, as a general public, at this stage, we can pray, to be honest with you, because minds are so set. This passport thing, I mean, the passport thing, compulsory vaccination, I mean, they really have no place. It doesn't make sense at all. So scientifically, at least. So that's what I'm saying, that all we can do is pray that hopefully we'll get out of it. And the only way we can get out of it, and I think like what is happening in America now, the government is more or less pushing the lockdown still, but many states are saying enough is enough. We are getting out of it. And this is probably what we should hope and pray for, that somehow our political leaders should say, okay, let's hear the second view. First,
I mean, from a point of, obviously we have lockdown, we have the issue of, I don't know whether if the Dr. Sadaf can speak about issue of lockdown, distancing, masks. Are these things that actually work, or it's just a pointless exercise of control?
Like I gave you an example last time as well. Forget just a simple mask. I mean, scientifically, all we needed was a simple, very simple 2-compartment experiment. Put a mask in here, blow the air from here, okay, with the virus, and measure whether the virus is passing or not. So just to establish if the mask is workable. But we can't do that.
No valid experiment ever done.
No, because there's no virus and there's no valid test. You can't do that.
So, can I ask a question to the doctors? You know, we're hearing on the news about the variants. You know, these so-called variants. You got the in UK
Brazilian
the variant. You got the South African variant. You got the Brazilian variant. It's like every country now is going to be labeled in a way that they got this variant. So now they are developing. You know, they're saying like this vaccine will be good for all of them, but not for this one. So basically, it seems like for you to be protected properly, you have to take so many injections
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
different countries or different parts of the world for you to be safe.
I,
And I'm just asking from Dr. Professor Saeed and even for the doctor, why are they going around giving
yeah,
these different names?
I just give you a quick answer to that, but I'm telling for the last hour and so that there is not even original viruses available. How they are finding the variants?
Mm. Yes, I get you. Unless the variants they're saying there's different symptoms because they can only look at symptoms.
No, you can have a different symptom. Okay, fine.
Yes,
Side.
yes.
But the thing is, that symptom doesn't mean you have a variant. That might be you have a different type of burnt soup last night. You ate.
Mm.
So what I'm saying, and as Sadaf mentioned as well, all these viruses are basically computer generated. They are not physically available. Nobody has seen them. Nobody isolated. So somebody sat on the computer and they say, okay, fine, I have this interpretation, and goes the computer and says, okay, I have a different one. Now here's the, and they will give some weird number, B1.1 points or something like that, which is, I mean,
Mm.
if we don't even have a chicken to start with, how can we have a soup? I don't know. I'm not giving.
I mean, can we talk about what's actually in the virus?
I'm sorry.
Can we actually talk about what's actually in the virus, and is it really halal?
Oh,
The virus or the vaccine?
Vaccine. Oh,
the
I mean,
contents, the contents.
yeah. Okay. The modern one, the one are generally all man-made. So I would not be that much concerned. But the older version, actually, many people, and maybe Sadaf can jump into it, is usually they say they are developed in the media, which are aborted fetuses. And obviously now it's up to you to decide. Although they say it's always been purified and everything is 100%, but it's up to you. I have no strong view or definite view on that kind of thing.
Can Sadaf jump in if she can give us some information on this?
Okay, so first of all, someone had mentioned about these measures, okay, that where they're calling new normal measures, like social distancing, right, and
Yes.
mask wearing. So as far as the mask wearing goes, prior, like when in the first phase of this so-called pandemic, Fauci and all the, World Health Organization said very clearly, you don't need to wear a mask because masks are not efficacious for respiratory viral infections, okay? And a decade plus of our random control trials with verified outcomes have proved that. That is very clear in the scientific literature. Masks do not work with respiratory viruses, and they, in fact, cause all kinds of other problems. You're masking a general population, and what's really comical is you're getting people to wear cloth masks, okay, which have 90% plus filterability. So all you're doing now is impeding the oxygen, making a moist environment to rebreathe in these pathogens. And it's just a disastrous public health policy, and it makes no sense. The social distancing, same thing. The only way to protect yourself from a respiratory virus, and by the way, we have 360 trillion viruses in and around us. They're a part of God's elaborate system as to how we evolved on this planet and are central to our immunity, right? But let's pretend the virus is the bad guy in this very simplistic paradigm. The only way you're going to be safe is if you have your own oxygen tank and you're not breathing. Because every time you take a breath in or out, those respiratory viruses are coming in and out, and you're still breathing them in, right? So when surgeons wear them, they do it for, if they're going to sneeze or cough and gross splatters and that kind of thing. They have oxygen controlled rooms, and they keep changing these masks, right? So it is just a disastrous policy. We know that. We're going to see the rise of bacterial pneumonia infections, all kinds of other problems. And what's happening right now in schools, okay, the so-called new normal, is tantamount to systemic child abuse. And parents have to acknowledge that and not participate in this systemic torture that is happening to children now in the guise of, public health.
Yeah.
Like, for example,
Why are they vaccinating children if children are not affected by
Testing, not vaccinating, testing.
Oh, they're testing, they're not vaccinating. Okay.
No, testing them.
not yet, but they're going to roll it out. Yeah, they're doing trials on children
Yes.
right now, right?
Yeah.
So the children will be next. The fact is that none of this has any basis in science. And what I will say to people is, for the first time in human history, we have been in a world war for almost a year now, yet most people are blissfully unaware of it. Okay, that is their greatest impediment right now, is we have to stand back and look at everything that's happening. Do you really think this is about a virus? As soon as they declared the first, the lockdown in England, elderly people, adults with autism, children with cancer, they were getting DNR letters for do not resuscitate. Okay, and I'm bringing this up because somebody mentioned eugenics, right? In Canada, we have a bill right now that's going to go through, and it's called death on demand. And what that means is that you can request death and you'll be, granted that day. And they don't ask you at the last minute if you have a change of mind. So also about the deaths, okay, this is very important. When they declared the first lockdown in England, in Canada, in Ontario, Quebec, in the US, in Italy, in Spain, in France, you know what happened? They implemented policy changes that expedited the deaths of the most vulnerable elderly, especially in what we call long-term care facilities. And we have a researcher here who's a physics professor, and he discovered something called the sharp COVID peak. And he said that this is an unnatural death peak that wasn't viral. It was caused by policy changes from isolation of the elderly, and the systems that are already strained in all our countries collapsed. So we had elderly people that were bedridden. They weren't even being given water. We have a military report in Ontario to substantiate that. These people were not changed. They were not fed. They weren't given water, and they were heavily sedated. Well, if you're lying down and you're sedated, what's going to happen? You're going to aspirate, right? And you're going to get pneumonia, or you're going to go into respiratory arrest, and then they're labeling that as COVID, okay? And it's important that we discuss and acknowledge these things because they're doing the same conditions again. And as Dr. Qureshi eloquently said, how can we have variants when we haven't isolated the original virus? The fact is that all year we have thousands of variations of SARS-CoV-2 on the digital genome database. So why is it an issue now? In England, as soon as they rolled out the vaccine, that's when the variants came, because now they need to cover up the increased sickness and death from the vaccine. And so they're blaming it on the variants, okay? The science of it is very flimsy. It's based on 3 papers that are, again, predicated on computer models, and that same character is involved in it, Neil Ferguson.
Okay.
So I answered the question. I will beseech everyone to please research these vaccines, especially the synthetic gene therapies, because you cannot undo it. Once you get it, you are now messing with yourself on the cellular level with many repercussions, including infertility. 2 very prominent doctors wrote a stay of action to the EU, telling them to halt the vaccine trials. One of them is the ex-vice president of Pfizer's science division, Dr. Michael Yaden. He himself is a lung doctor. So there are many, many concerns with these synthetic gene therapy injections. And I'm sorry to be so dark about the whole thing. But if we're going to, our hope, I feel, I've talked to many lawyers in Canada. I've talked to a judge. I've talked to politicians. And I'll tell you what my conclusion is. And I think you'll agree with me for your country as well. And our conclusion and hope is we need massive civil disobedience. Okay, these are unconstitutional, unethical orders that are destroying people's lives. Okay, suicide rates are going up. You know, society, the fabric of society. I mean, people in Canada, you know, people are dying alone, and they're saying goodbye to their loved ones on Zoom. Like it's pure insanity. But if you look at eugenics, then yeah, it all makes sense. Okay, it all makes sense. So my conclusion is, like we've seen in Serbia, as we've seen in Italy, where 50,000 businesses said, you know what, we're done, we're opening up. You know, if we all take a stand, like I pulled my kids out of school. right? My 2 children are being homeschooled because I will not subject them to this torture and abuse. Right? I'm not going to make my children wear a mask all day. And also, you know, these hand sanitizers, these are endocrine disruptors. They're carcinogenic. They haven't even been approved by Health Canada. Right? So that's what we all have to do. Our fear should be of God. Our fear should be of Allah, right? Not of a virus and not of the government. And we should stand up for righteousness. And the biggest point I want to make, if I say anything tonight, is that there is a great genocide underway by starvation, okay, in countries that have no issue with respiratory viruses, and it's from lockdown policies. They're calling it a pandemic. It's not the pandemic. It's lockdown policies, okay? And even in Canada, we have record unemployment, and it's going to get worse because they are decimating the middle class, and they're rolling out universal basic income. And once you're on universal basic income, if you don't do what they say, they're going to lock you out, right?
Yeah.
So that's the greater picture.
So from what you're saying, and the situation is now regarding the vaccine, it seems that it is a way that they have now crippled the country to a situation where everybody's got to be reliant on the state for their sustenance, for the living. That's how I say it now, from what you're saying. So if you don't have the vaccine, then it seems like if you're not vaccinated, you're not going to get no support from us, from the government, because you're not following our way. And if you want to live, this is the amount you're going to give you, and that's it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's what they do. I'm sorry, I think I cut someone off there. This is what they've been doing in Australia, right? Australia is a very fascist country. They started doing that a few years ago. So people who are getting government, help wouldn't get it if their children were not vaccinated, right? The other thing is the food supply of the equation of everything that's happening. You know, this is where it gets really complicated, but you have to understand the UN Sustainability Development Goals. You have to think about global warming, okay? Because they're bringing that back. That's the marriage. It's going to be global warming and COVID, and in the guise of what they're calling sustainability, equality, inclusivity, and green, they're bringing in these changes. So the climate lockdown is going to be permanent, right? So the climate lockdown, and they said it very clearly in the World Economic Forum meeting. They said, you know what, this is a great time now because we need to heal the earth, and this is how we're going to do it. So they're shutting down meat production in the U.S., right? Soybean imports into countries like the U.S. In Canada, there's different changes. Small farms have been shut down. So I know it's overwhelming because there's so much happening from so many ends, but we also do recommend people to grow their own food and think about that aspect of it as well.
So now what I was maybe just wanted to conclude as well is that basically what it boils down to right now, the situation is that we are in the hands of government, and the government actually is deciding what we can do is basically is that you are hearing me?
Yes,
Okay?
yes. Yeah.
So basically is that what Sadaf pointed out, pretty good. But from my perspective, approach may be that somehow approach the government through your members, through your city council or whatever, and try to convince them that, look, we are agreeing, we like your approach, you want to care up for us for vaccine, but we have questions. Okay, and you can go on my website, but I will read you here 3 questions. If you ask them that, look, the science is not supporting what you are saying, although they repeatedly say we are going with the science or fact. So I gave you an example. I put on my blog 3 questions a couple of days ago that has anybody seen or can you supply us a pure specimen of SARS virus? Because if you cannot supply us the pure specimen of virus, it means you cannot say that you find it or you can kill it or you can cure people without that. So the first question we should ask our members of government, member of experts, please provide us a specimen example of virus. If you don't have it, tell us who sees it, who has seen it. One question. The second question is any reference, any link worldwide to show us an experimental study in which showing that the virus or its derivative, vaccine or its derivative killed the virus. Any example worldwide experimental evidence showing that they have seen or somebody has done, okay, that a vaccine killed the virus. Third question, showing the face mask. Everybody wants to put us on the face mask. Show us any example of experiment, any type of mask, which shows the mask reduces significantly in or out passage of virus. Any example of mask. If they can answer all these three questions, be my guest, have your vaccine.
Question. There's something they always mention about the vaccines, that they have different levels of, and I can't remember the word. Some are 90%, some are 65%, some are, what's the word? Effective, like it's called effectiveness, but use another word. Efficacy.
Yes.
Now, if they have different efficacy, then I presume they're all testing against the same virus, the same virus, COVID-19. Okay, this efficacy you're saying is not based upon the virus, it's based upon the material that's been detected by the PCR test. What is the efficacy based on? Efficacy is based on a group of people. What is it based upon? That is efficacy.
Okay, there are two very good things to consider here. Okay, and we are really get tricked here. Okay, I warn you for it. We mean as a public.
Yes.
First thing is the vaccines are being monitored by PCR test, and we have discussed it in detail. Okay, discussed in detail that PCR test means nothing. So anybody who's showing you that PCR is better, not better, or this and that, is just scientifically not valid. Okay, they have to. That's why I said one of the three questions I put. You have to show us where did the vaccine kill the virus.
Yes.
PCR, forget about it. And the second thing is this 60% or 70% or 90% is really deceptive. It's a joke, scientifically, mathematically. And I give you an example how they calculate these numbers. Suppose in your family you have 20 people, okay? And just for the sake of argument, just as maybe it's not the right example, but 10 people, you give the soup. And the 10 people, you don't give the soup. Okay? And somehow one person fell sick in the non-soup area. Okay? Nobody fell sick in the soup area. The result will be soup is 100% efficient for keeping people healthy. This is how they are calculated.
So what are they saying? All 20 people had the COVID. And that's what they're saying. 20 people, all of my family members had the COVID. 10 people had soup. 10 people had no soup. Only the person who had no soup.
This is what I was trying to explain, and I want to repeat it again. I think I didn't explain it clearly. In the vaccine study, they have 20,000 people in the vaccine area, 20,000 in the non-vaccine area. Okay? 20,000 people were not sick people. 40,000 people were not sick people.
Okay.
They were all healthy people. But what happened is, that's why I gave you the example of the soup, that one person only got, so in 20,000 injections with vaccine and 20,000 without it vaccine, in vaccine area, less people were positive for PCR. In non-vaccine area, they were more positive with PCR. There were 100, and just make it round number here, not exact, 200 people positive in non-vaccine area. 8 people positive in vaccine area. Efficacy is 98%. This is how they are calculating. People do not realize how this science is so corrupt. So in reality, what you were saying, this is what I wrote in my article as well. Public perception is they have 20,000 people with positive or COVID or PCR and 20,000 positive with COVID. And when you give the vaccine, the 98% got cured.
Yes.
The vaccine. No, that's not right. That's absolutely not right. They did the calculation in such a way that they can make people
believe
that how efficient, how they have, this is their own math. They develop their own math to test the vaccine. So the soup example, the one person who got sick in the soup example, they were all healthy.
Yes, all healthy. Yes, yes.
One person got sick in the soup, non-soup area, and nobody got sick in the soup area.
Yeah.
We have 100% healthy
efficacy. Yes, if you have the soup.
So if it's all public, good. If you want to look how the efficacy of vaccines are determined, particularly on Pfizer, it's all available on US FDA website. Just pull that document there, or you can go to my site and I have done the calculation.
Okay, we're gonna round up. We're gonna round up now, and one of the things that we're trying to achieve on this platform is to be educated, be in contact with scientists and doctors, so as a public we can see through the smoke and the mist and actually try and get some real data and some real information as to what's going on. And thanks to Dr. Said Qureshi and Dr. Sadaf Jilani, we've been able to get an insight into what's happening in regards to COVID-19 and the vaccinations. As to what we're going to do going forward as individuals, it's based upon your own research, your own conclusion, what's best for you in your own situation. Very difficult times, going ahead. Most definitely we must stay informed, always be people who seek the truth, and being, to keep yourself and your family safe. We pray and hope that the truth comes to the surface, and our governments and our doctors and our system can treat the people, because this is what we're looking at. How do we keep the people safe? Do we trust our governments? Do we trust the pharmaceutical companies? Where do we look for safety? And obviously, as I was speaking to a brother earlier, most of the people are like sheep. Most of the people are not going to go to the website and research what are the government doing. They're just going to follow and say, okay, if the government says, we do what the government says. And those who don't do what the government says are either seen as conspiracy theorists, rebels, anti-establishment, etc. It's very, very difficult times for people who go against the mainstream. And another thing I want to bring up is about how, if you put a certain doctor's name in the internet, fact checkers will come and say, oh, he's been discredited. So even they're trying to clamp down on the truth via the internet, so it's very difficult times. we have to finish up. Any parting words from our two doctors? Any advice you can give us before we close?
I put my web blog link there,
Yes.
so if somebody's interested,
Mhm,
and please do visit that. And if you
Yes.
even support it, I will appreciate that.
Yes.
And there are lots of articles, and if you have any specific question, let me know. Maybe I will able to explain it and help you out. That's all.
Dr. Sadaf, any parting words going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So my prediction is that things are going to get worse before they get better. And the reason is because generally our populations are pretty complacent. We don't have enough resistance yet. But as they start rolling out the vaccine rollout on, the younger people and all that, I think that'll be the time where we'll hopefully have that tipping point where people will start to take a stand in civil disobedience. So my advice is to do what I've been doing, and that is to make connections with like-minded people in your area, in your communities. Also address food security, issues like that. There's no harm in that, and I think it's worthwhile to be prepared on all those fronts, and spread the word, spread the information. Like, we have a lot of grassroots activism in Canada. We have a gentleman that actually started a newspaper because there's no we're not allowed to share any real stats or data. So he actually started one 3 months ago, and now it's like going across Canada. It's called Druthers. So please keep spreading the word and keep networking with like-minded people, because that's how we're gonna survive this. Is like, we need each other. So that's my advice. Quick other point I want to mention on the science front is that this all started in Wuhan, right?
Yeah, so it's been told, yes.
So they have over 1 billion people. They have air pollution, malnutrition, population density, and they have under 5,000 deaths from COVID. Okay. And they tested almost 10 million people in the city of Wuhan 1 month post lockdown. And they said they had 0 symptomatic cases and no cases of asymptomatic spread. So I think that's something we all need to ponder, because when you think about it, it's really a political virus more than anything.
Excellent. Thank you for those words of advice. And my advice to everyone participating is make lots of dua and keep yourself educated, and stay safe. And hopefully, inshallah, we'll see you again next time, where we're always trying to have, I call it Scientific Saturday, but we hope to speak to academics, scientists and doctors, so to keep ourselves informed about current issues. So my last parting words to brothers and sisters is Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And thank you for your time, Dr. Zaid and Dr. Sadaf Jilani. Yes, thank you for your time. Inshallah, we will speak again soon. Assalamu alaikum. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.